Oh, Canada.
Oh, Canada.
Welcome to the Outta Control Show, folks. What's out of control?
Who's out of control?
Where's it out of control?
And Kent, why is it always out of control, brother?
It's always out of control. You know what's really out of control? The crazy intensity of like the year-long protests in Canada regarding Israel and the Palestinians. Things are getting out of control, Rusty.
Absolutely, Kent, and it's getting old, and it's getting tiring, and it's not very Canadian, and it's not Canadian at all.
The most recent one in Montreal, it's just crazy because a lot of us saw the videos. We're preaching to the choir here. If you're watching this, you probably already saw the videos too, but they're clearly chanting, Palestinian-related slogans and things, which is fine if you're peaceful and friggin' act normal. But over the course of the last 13 months or so, like it's really intensified. It's gone from, street corners to like Jewish hospitals to now, overpasses and Jewish neighborhoods and literally seeking out Jewish neighborhoods to set up these protests. And now, like the whole media was reporting that what happened in Montreal was anti-NATO protests. And that might have been part of it.
Well, that's to be expected from the mainstream, Ken. They're lying through their teeth all the damn time. Every day they can't go a day without telling some kind of far-off tale. And it's ridiculous. And that's out of control. Like, is there any truth out there? And like we've said before, folks, we're just here having a discussion, and this is all for entertainment purposes. But we just want to talk to you. We want to have these discussions basically be repeated and shared, and we all start talking about some things and realizing that this country's out of control, and she's spiraling quickly here and picking up speed, it seems, with all these crazy things. We're on the eve of destruction here tonight there, Kent. Really tense times in the world. Everybody seems to want to get to war, and nobody wants peace. Nobody wants to talk about peace. And even when it comes down to this Israeli and Palestinian conflict, there's going to have to come a time, people, that you're going to have to come to the table and talk about peace. Nobody's talking about peace. Everybody wants to get it on and fulfill biblical prophecy here and burn it all to the ground, because that's where we're going. Like, that's where we're at. I don't know.
There's
a lot of
hate.
Mr. Putin says, hey, we're basically, if you cross this line, there will be, basically fuck around and find out. And, we'll fuck around. Like, come on, man. Like,
it doesn't look like a peaceful transition of power over to the new American president to me. It's kind of like we're on the way out the door, so we're going to kick the hornet's nest and best of luck.
Later.
But in regards to Canada, I mean, this started out, people can peacefully protest in Canada. That's fine. But we have eyeballs and we have ears. And we have clearly seen this escalation from people chanting death to Canada. I believe that was mainly that group Samidoun.
Right.
And I think the leader of that had a talking to or dealt with by the police. But for the most part, the last 13 months have just been basically allowed to happen. Like we just saw most recently a Rebel News reporter, the owner actually, Ezra Levant, get hauled away by the police. Now, regardless of what you think about Rebel News, I mean, sometimes they put themselves in situations and sometimes they just actually really get
They're at the wrong place at the wrong time, right?
So they get railroaded too sometimes. And this time it certainly looked like it. Like in Canada, a reporter should be able to walk on a sidewalk up to a group of people that disagree with him and talk to them. If they get upset, that's not the dude's fault. And we're in a Canada right now where they will remove the one guy who doesn't do anything really wrong to not have to deal with the much larger group that is saying some terrible shit. And it's kind of like it's been growing and growing and growing. And regardless of what side you are on with the Israeli-Gaza conflict, Canada is in a tough spot because at the end of the day, the average Canadian has nothing to do with it.
Nothing at all.
And we don't want to see this violent translate over to our society and our street. But then on the other hand, our government basically funds both sides. They fund Israel directly or indirectly, or they might have slowed down shipments, but they've helped Israel. And then we fund Hamas and terrorist groups in indirect ways via charities and things.
Well, two weeks ago, Kent,
we're in a bad
JT
spot.
was supporting Israel, and now he wants to lock up their leaders. So that guy's out of control.
Well, and did you see what America said?
So absolutely, yeah. We'll just economically crush you. And here, take some new Canadians because they're starting to round them up, or they will be if they live up to Trump's campaign promises. So interesting times ahead, my friend, and it's going to be a damn roller coaster ride, and we're going to watch it get out of control, people. It's going to be great because every day it's like the new day looks at yesterday and says, hey, bro, hold my beer. Right? And it seems like that for
I know.
the last, 4 years, ever since 19 and COVID started and people started getting sick. And then from that point on, we've been living in the twilight zone. And you can't there is stuff that's happening, bro, that you just can't write. You can't write this shit. Mm-hmm. It's like, what?
And the media cycle is a monster.
A monster.
Because something atrocious could happen yesterday, and in a few days it's forgotten because the next craziest shit just happened.
That's right.
And it's like hit after hit after hit. And I see a lot of people comparing things with these protests in Canada to the convoy. Okay. Now, I see a lot of, social media accounts, basically considering, people who went to the convoy, people who protested against vaccine mandates. They're portraying them as terrorists, domestic terrorists, and all the terrible things you could call somebody. But
because they were a people.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, all these people wanted, including me, was the government to not force drugs into people.
That's right.
Without threatening people.
Exactly. My body.
That's it.
My choice.
That's all.
Our body, our choice.
And that was a Canadian issue.
And it was.
Right?
That's right.
That's a Canadian issue. We're Canadians talking to our Canadian government. Now we have these crazy, escalating, violent protests about a war that's not happening.
Well,
here in Canada.
Look at it this way. And maybe you Palestinians can look at it this way too. But as you are going up against Israel and your kind of leader, because they're pretty much the leader of that land, and going against is no different than what Canadians did opposing to their government and for, the cause that you may. Now, having Hamas supporters and that stuff, that is a whole nother ball of wax. And there's it's a very complex subject, which has to be really, really simplified. And these two sides need to there will have to come a point in time where they have to forgive, and then maybe never forget, because we can't forget, but you should be able to forgive and work on peace, man. because right now, we're not in that direction, and we need to be turning that train or this ship around in that direction. And what will that take, right? And even with this Palestinian issue that we're having here in this country, we as Canadians need to have some way to sit down to these people and say, listen, enough's enough. This is Canada. That behavior will not be tolerated. It's unacceptable. It's not Canadian at all, and it has to stop. And we don't want to resort to violence. We don't want to resort to racism. We don't want any of the isms. We just want to live in peace. And if you can live in peace, and we know that there's a problem in your land, as there is problems in every other foreign Canadian that lives in this country's land. Everybody has issues, not just you guys. So either stop it or some things are going to have to change.
It's going to get out of control because
it is out of control.
There is,
and it's growing.
There's
a hatred growing.
Well, that's the problem with this kind of thing is Canada has always been a mostly welcoming country. Most of the people are nice.
That's right, because we don't judge, Kent.
You know, is it everybody? Are there assholes and some racists of all colors and creeds? Yes.
Yeah, all over the planet.
Overall, most Canadian communities and most Canadian people just get along and just want to go to work and raise their kids and have a good life. Right?
That's right.
It's the small groups that yell the loudest, that we see on the news, that we see smashing windows and other things. But I think the underlying anger that a lot of people feel is the contrast between the convoy and what's gone on. I mean, they pulled out the old War Measures Act, newly named Emergency Act, to absolutely destroy Canadians. I mean, I saw videos of 4 cops kneeing guys and people getting rifle butted. We all saw the grandma on the scooter get trampled by the horse. I mean, we know in our hearts that that's not right. And we have these people who still deny and call Canadians domestic terrorists. And we were just standing up for our own country and our own families and our own rights.
That's right.
And we have these people, whether some of them are Canadian or not, on our streets every weekend antagonizing, Jewish people and neighborhoods and stuff. And I'm sure maybe there's a handful of Jewish people that are doing bad things to perhaps the other side as well. I don't know the whole story, but I mean the overall feeling that Canadians are seeing is there's a lot of hate growing and it's escalating big time. They burned an effigy in Montreal. Yeah. And then they say it's an anti-NATO protest. I mean, we have ears, we have eyeballs, we can hear the video, we hear what they're saying. I mean, we didn't have people chanting death to Canada before our government let in all kinds of people that hate Canada. What do you think, Rusty?
Oh, I agree 100%, Kent. And we're at a point where, I don't know what it's going to take to make it basically better and make people, calm down. And because everything they're doing does not help their cause. I don't know why. We understand that country has been is in turmoil, and their city has been destroyed, and cities exactly. And we get it, and both sides are equally, and maybe not equally, but they're both guilty of atrocities and hatred and a lot of bad stuff. And there's nothing we can do about that. We don't have to agree with it. And I don't pick any side because, like I say, I think they're both guilty. And until they stop the violence and take a peaceful stance, we're not going. Nothing's going to change, and this is only escalating.
It's getting to a point where it's working against what Canada is supposed to be about. We are welcoming. Our country is founded upon immigration. We are welcoming to LGBTQ folks who just want to live normally and go to work, you know? But when all this stuff is pushed upon people, it starts to turn more people against those causes. I mean, it's even reported in the media now that more and more Canadians are against immigration. It's not because they're racist, it's because unsustainable immigration has led to a multitude of problems, from housing to jobs to these protests to a multitude of problems. And
which
basically the Liberals go, sorry, we messed up. It's somebody else's fault. We'll try better.
As far as I'm concerned, Kent, it's a crime against humanity to bring all these people that we do not have places to put them and continue bringing in, new people and having nowhere to put them. And this is a country that is in winter for, over half of the year. And the weather is very shitty. And where we bring them here to just freeze on the streets? We got, really, the U.S. There, what was it, last year I was watching, it was like October, and all these people coming across, and they got this freak storm, and it went down to minus 20 below, and all these South American people now are freezing on the streets of Texas because they got nowhere to go. There's nowhere to put them. Like, they're so saturated, it's not even funny. They're worse than we are. And they're still bringing it in. Like, close the door already. Shut it down. Let's assess who we have here, because we have no idea.
This might be a little controversial, I guess, but I'm just going to say it.
Uh-oh.
It really, truly has gotten out of control. And most Canadians are just trying to survive. They're just trying to pay their bills and feed their kids.
No different than them.
Right? And it's hard to gather enough people to really make change. Words on a screen or a video, it can change people or get people's interest and stuff, but really it's boots on the ground. It's Canadians outside peacefully applying pressure. Because when there's a few people, the cops and that can push you around. When there's way too many people, they can't.
That's right.
So, I mean, we're at the point here now where we have a government that just doesn't tell the truth and hides so much corruption and wastes so much money. I mean, what is the biggest threat to me personally? This is probably going to put me on a watch list, and this is the dangerous part, okay? What's the biggest threat to me in my life? Is it Russia? Is it Ukraine? Is it Gaza? No, it's the Canadian government. They're the ones that would segregate me and have people so whipped up and afraid because I'm unvaccinated that they're wishing me and my family death and to not get help at hospitals. The Canadian government are the people who purposely increase poverty. Is that not a threat? I mean, carbon taxes and the way that they've increased things, while their own people are telling them it's not going to work out and it's bad for people, bad for the economy, chases away business, loses jobs, but they purposely go ahead and do it anyway. Is that not a threat to me or my family or you or your kids? I mean, what's the biggest threat in our lives, in our day-to-day lives, from paying for things to our mobility rights to all the things that just for us to live and go to work, taxes? They continually increase taxes where 40 to 50% of our paychecks go to various levels of taxes. I understand we have to pay for things, but when they're wasting it and giving it away to war or to other countries or for contraceptives in a country on the other side of the ocean that would never even think about Canada. Like, who's coming to help us? We doubled our federal debt.
Yeah.
Who's coming to fucking help Canada?
Nobody's
so,
coming,
I mean,
Ken.
I don't want any harm to these people, but you tell me, who's the biggest threat? Is Putin? Is Netanyahu? Who's the biggest threat in your day-to-day life? In my life, it's the Canadian government, because they're the ones that directly impact me.
100%.
And if they're pushing for war and we can't even defend ourselves, it's you, me, our kids, people we love going to war, while these assholes hide. They hide like the fucking convoy.
Yeah.
They're going to pretend to get COVID because trucks are honking.
Yeah, or they just leave the country, Ken.
I just want people to understand why I feel the way I do, and we do what we do.
That's right.
Because from the media not telling the truth, to the forced vaccinations, to all the corrupt shit that our government's doing, is the reason this show exists, so that we can try and talk to you folks. We actually care about Canada.
Love
we don't
Canada.
know you, but we care about you, and you want you to be somewhat informed.
And it's, I guess,
it's getting dangerous.
Is that, or are we just issuing a warning and stop before you get to a point of no return? Right? Because, like you said, people are up to here, Kent, and that's got to stop.
If people see what many consider to be two-tiered justice.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Like we're seeing in England
and
the UK.
Well, we see it here too.
Sure we do.
I mean, we obviously...
Well, we saw it today with Ezra getting arrested for reporting on this stuff.
People are still crying about the convoy, where they basically protested where Canadians are supposed to, our nation's capital, and they protested in the areas the police wanted them to. I think most of the streets, a lane was left open for emergency vehicles. Sure, it was noisy and uncomfortable, but the whole fucking country was uncomfortable with what the government was doing. So there was mostly a centralized protest where Canadians are supposed to protest. It's mostly peaceful, as funny as that sounds. We had some borders blocked for sure. And then there's also people involved, weapons and different things. You don't always know the truth when RCMP's involved or damaging equipment. But comparing 3-4 weeks to Ottawa, where people are mostly confined to where the authorities wanted them to be, compared to over a year of what I would consider what turned into hate marches across the whole country, from burning flags and chanting death to Vancouver to what happened in Montreal and people being intimidated and scared and bad things happening all the way in between. I'm not taking sides in the conflict, but in this video I'm taking Canada's side. And it's time for the bullshit and the violence in Canada to be fucking ended. And we always try to tie things up with a nice bow and find some solutions. What would be one?
Well, I think we need to come, I guess, we need to bring them to the table, and we need to basically talk on and coming up with a peaceful solution. Like, I don't know.
To the people on Canadian streets?
That's right. To the ones that are, protesting as heavily as they are and escalating this. We got to talk to them. And if they don't want to talk, then I guess we're going to have to use the
next
arm
step
of the law, right? We have laws in this country to keep the peace for a reason. And it's a disgrace when the law doesn't uphold the law and lets this kind of nonsense get to this point, because this could have been shut down. Every time those guys came out to do their thing, just like we've seen in Ottawa, the riot guys come out in their horses and their shields, and they send them packing. And the ones that get too out of control, arrest them, prosecute them, throw them in jail. That's why we have a law system. That's why we pay to to have this law system protect us, our country, and the people of that country. And it doesn't discriminate on gender, on race, on religion. It's the law, the universal law of our country. So, and that's what we're not seeing happen. And we've seen it.
I was just about to ask you, actually, what happens when the police don't uphold the law?
Well, Kent, it's like this.
I mean, it's happening time and time again.
Well, peacefully, then what? We have to go out and protest, or there comes a point where, like every country on this planet throughout the history of time, when the tyranny gets too out of control, then the people rise up. And sometimes, and not very many, I don't think, have been peaceful ones. And then there's sacrifice, and there's bloodshed, and there's some very, very serious violence. And you could almost say today we're at that point here, Kent, just around the world, and how the, what the global situation is right now. So, and I'm not advocating this. I wear this sweater for a reason, because I'm all about let's find a peaceful solution. But when there doesn't come peace, then I guess people are getting into a scrap, right? And we don't need to go there. So we need to find a peaceful solution, and we need to talk, and everybody has to be adults. And, I think is that even possible, though? Is that possible? I don't know, people out there, is that possible?
Like you said, a good solution is for people to talk about it. That's a good start. I mean, that doesn't cost any money.
That's right.
You could like, share, and subscribe. And if you've watched the video this long, we thank you. Thanks for tuning in.
You bet. Thanks, folks. Peace be with everybody out there.
This is Canada. Maple syrup and